Community, the district is saddened by the death of one of our students. Colton Poplow passed away this weekend, a senior at the high school. And so what I'd like to do is stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then immediately after that, remain standing for a moment of silence in his honor. So let's stand, please. Thank you. All right, open forum. Ashley, do we know how many people we have like to speak? Okay, so we have, I'm assuming when there's two names in one line, it's two people that want to come at the same time? Is that, okay, so we have three people. Again, please come forward, sit down, pull the microphone up, hit the little button in front of you, and then please say your name so that people on TV can tell who you are. So we have Amy Wadding and Commissioner Mike Lee. Please.
Thank you. I'd like to, again, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak here tonight. I remember at the last meeting, Dr. Funk had requested some information to get from the counties out in southwest Minnesota. And Amy did all the hard work on that and getting all the information. It got all sent off to you. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to pass the mic over to Amy so that she can talk with you about this and if you got any questions and her comments. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Amy from the 4-H program here in the county, and as you guys all received in the mail, information that was collected on the data that you had requested. And so I know a couple of school board members had asked questions regarding that, so I'm going to start with that if you have any questions first on the information that was given to you. Anything that wasn't clear or didn't make sense?
Jill, did you not get a packet?
I have
Here.
not seen it, no, I don't know.
Here's a,
Thank you.
Jill, oh, he's got one right there. Yeah.
Okay, so the numbers that we figured out is how many of the actual 4-H kids from the Albert Lea School District that attending the state fair would affect. And so out of, when we pulled the data for 2 years, and so out of 2013, we sent 107 kids to the 12 days of the Minnesota State Fair, and 2014, we sent 105 kids. And so in 2013, Albert Lea area schools had 26 kids, which is 24% of our numbers were from the Albert Lea School District. Of those 26, 22 of them did livestock, which would be the first week of the state fair. And then 7 of them did general projects, so a couple of them double dipped. So they were up there for the 4-H weekend, or 4-H week for livestock, and then they were up there again for the general project. And so they were up there for a long time. In 2014, it was 21% of our kids are from the Albert Lea schools, and so of the 22 kids, actually 22 of them went, so they were up there for the first full week of state fair. And so it would impact a quarter of our program, but this is Freeborn County as a whole, and so if we will still continue to go, and if Albert Lea isn't part of our numbers, that it will be unfortunate, but as a county, we will still represent at the state fair, much as Southwest Minnesota staff operates. And I know, I think Dr. Funk had compared us to how it would work with Southwest, and so You have a copy of the responses from Southwest staff. 9 of the 12 counties responded to our request by asking if their programs are affected and kind of how much they're affected, and then the size of their programs compared to the size of our program. And so that data is stuff that we sent you. So any other questions that you have for 4-H?
Amy, one of the themes I got was that it seemed to be somewhat directly related to how the school district worked with the students in the program.
Yes, they have, that is what comments from staff had said, is that they worked with their schools. They gave them, a letter would come from us saying, so-and-so made it to the state fair, please excuse them from school. I don't know how that works when you get past your 8 days of, excused absence, and then you have something happen, and, we'll have to figure that out, but,
Typically for sports, or any other state activity, those days are not considered part of the traditional student absence. That's how we operate. If a student is selected to go to state for like a wrestling last week, that would be
Okay.
different. It's looked at differently.
yeah. And the University of Minnesota is working on generating a letter, because Southwest does not have it either, that says, it's an official document from the university explaining what the youth is going to the state fair, why they're gonna be up there, what they're gonna learn while they're up there. It's not just, they're not gonna go on rides and eat down in the Midway and, stuff like that. They're up there doing an educational opportunity. So,
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for taking the time to send us a package too, appreciate
no
that.
problem. You might get yours next week then.
Thank you.
All right, Angie Hansen?
I put them together quickly, so I did notice a couple typos after coming here, so I apologize for that.
And Angie, if I could just ask you to collate your comments to around 2 minutes? Thank you.
Hello, I'm Angie Hansen. I spoke here a couple times before. I teach in the Southland School District, and my son attends Halverson. Basically, I just wanted to talk a little bit today. And of course, this isn't a comprehensive list, but it's everything I could think of, and talking to other people and kind of put a thing on their Facebook. Benefits and costs of the early start of the calendar. If we did that early start, and the benefits I found in May, students and staff will enjoy getting out early. I think that's a definite benefit. Everyone will enjoy that when that comes around. Potential benefits is ending the first semester early might relieve that anxiety over break, and I think that was discussed, and that was one of the reasons I was looking in for this calendar. Another potential benefit is a potential artificial gain in MCA scores may result from more in-seat time prior to the test, and this probably will look good for to the state of Minnesota. Costs, higher daycare costs, that would be me. Especially for teachers from other districts. And I'm sure other people have schedules that it would conflict with as well. Other daycare hurdles for some, that they might have to find different daycare besides their traditional daycare. And then, of course, they already spoke about the 4-H and then also the FFA members attending the state fair. Those are costs that I think are for sure. And then other potential costs. Ending the first semester before winter break might actually result in less in-seat learning time and less study time to prepare for the final test. It could be a possible benefit or a potential cost. A potential artificial gain in MCA scores may result from the more in-seat time, and this may result in district complacency regarding real change to help students be successful. The other thing is there's less short breaks. I know like those 3-day weekends, those are good for me as a teacher, and I know they're good for my son. Those are sometimes much needed. And then the other thing is winter break does not start until Christmas Eve. That's a very small thing, but it would impact families for travel and stuff. And the other thing I just attached, it just seems like so much time has been spent on talking about the calendar, when I think there's other things we could focus on that would really actually help the students. And so I kind of made a list here. I don't need to go through it, but just some ideas to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. And we have Sonia Hill and Diane Easta.
Hi, I'm Sonia Hill. And my husband and I have 3 children in the district. We have a 2nd grader, 5th grader, and a 7th grader. You guys got my email, I think, and it is long, but I'm just going to read it to go on the record, and I'll go really fast, and then my counterpart's going to finish it for me, so we'll try to keep it as short as possible. As the vote for a new calendar once again approaches, I just want to thank you all for the work that you put into our schools and our students. Sincerely, I do. I'm sure that it can be a thankless job at times, one that has its rewards along with its frustrations. It's been almost a year since we started discussing a balanced, modified traditional calendar. It's obviously been a discussion that's had its ups and downs. Definitely one of the ups is how the community has become plugged in and involved. And that has been a great thing, something which I really hope will continue. Many things about this experience stand out to me as I have been involved with it pretty much since the beginning. At the first meeting I went to in April 2014, the discussion was how important it was to minimize the achievement gap by shortening the summer break because of the learning loss that occurs during those 3 months off. And that around 50% of our students in our community are on a free and reduced lunches, thus indicating that students from lower income families can tend to struggle scholastically. As that statistic is obviously a concerning one, I have not seen how other options that could help to positively affect that issue are being looked at and considered, such as lower class sizes or trying to figure out how to engage the students that need targeted services with what we have in place now. From what was discussed, it wasn't that our programs were not good, but that we were having a hard time getting our students to come to them. Or I wish that we would look into other programs that have been proven to have positive effects on the issues that students in our district deal with, such as the programs REACH, AVID, DECA, maybe even Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Maybe they are being looked at, but that definitely is not what the community has seen. Once this balanced modified calendar came into the works, it was something that was claimed to be one of the options that were being looked at, but in reality, it seemed to be the only option that was considered. As that may not be true, that is how it has appeared. The community started to voice their opinions, some in favor, some not in favor. Then the telephone survey occurred and the results were published. I truly think that that was the point where the community started to have trust issues, as I do believe that the intention of the board was a good one regarding the reasoning for the survey. The questions of the survey itself were biased, and that ruffled many feathers, not to mention the expense of the survey, which was around $16,000. Moving along to the 3 required forums, where more money was spent on a facilitator, around $8,000, to where the public was pretty much kept quiet except for the 2nd forum, and where only those that were in favor of the modified calendar were brought in to present their views. Again, those actions attributing to mistrust from the community. Then the December 1st vote, where the modified calendar got voted down 3-3, a no vote. There was a statement from one of the board members saying that he could not vote for the modified calendar partly due to the negative environments of the community, and it was very negative at that time. Then there was a second attempt to vote on a non-traditional calendar on December 29th, even though the board had voted it down once before and the community was against it more than ever. It is now March, and again, a non-traditional calendar is going to be voted on. I have to wonder what has changed with the negative environments of the community. Is there a more positive attitude now than back in December? If there is, I have failed to see it. I see more frustration and negativity because of how long this has all been drawn out. Drawing up a calendar that starts before Labor Day is not a traditional calendar. Not including Good Friday as a holiday is not a traditional calendar. A statement was made from our superintendent at the last board meeting stating that we had school Good Friday last year, and I did not hear one comment from the community on that, when in fact we did not have school on Good Friday last year. We never have. Once again, adding to the mistrust from the community.
When the discussion for a balanced calendar started, the main reasons for it were, 1, to help avoid learning loss over the summer. That went by the wayside because of the time by adding back in for the fair and et cetera. 2, providing targeted services for the students in need during breaks over the school year. Questions were raised about that regarding how to get the students to show up during those breaks. So with both of those major reasons no longer valid, it proves difficult to see why we are still discussing anything different than a traditional post-Labor Day calendar. Now, almost a year later from when this calendar issue went public, the main reason that another non-traditional calendar is being proposed is to get finals for the high school students done before Christmas break. First of all, this was a subject that was hardly even discussed during the whole calendar issue, but is now being addressed as important enough to transpose the calendar yet again. As this calendar could be an advantage for some students, one could argue both sides of that, with all of this angst that has occurred between the community and the board/administration. It just seems like this is causing more issues. When you look at the number of students that this new idea is being considered for, it only affects a small percentage of the student population. Only grades 9 through 12 are possibly benefiting from this new calendar. Roughly 770 students out of the 3,200. What about the other students from K through 8 that this does nothing for? Yet starting school at the end of August will affect families with daycare issues, 4-H, FFA students, students' employment, family vacations, etc. Also that the students don't feel stressed over Christmas break. I'm sorry, but finals alone can be stressful. Should we eliminate those too? Where do we stop with this? I don't take this subject lightly. I have a son that is a little over 1 year away from 9th grade, but his father and I want to teach him how to deal with stress, not how to avoid it. Life is about dealing with stress. When he goes to college and finds a job, I don't think that instructors and his bosses will be bending over backwards to keep him from getting stressed out. They will demand that he performs what is expected, no matter what. The other reason given for finishing finals before Christmas is that the students experienced learning loss over the 2-week break of Christmas. Well, if they haven't learned the curriculum well enough to remember it 2 weeks later for their finals, then I'm sorry. They never learned it well enough to begin with. And then we have a bigger problem. Now, almost a year later from when this calendar issue went public, the main reason that another non-traditional calendar is being proposed is to get finals for the high school students done before Christmas break. It's also being stated that because Labor Day is so late this year, that the students would need to go way into June to make up those days. That is something that I don't understand. If we start on the 8th of September, that is technically only 4 to 5 days later than usual. Why not just go a little over or a little later in May than what the pre-Labor Day calendar is proposing to make up those days? Or shave a few days off of Christmas break? Or that long week in spring break that I have never heard anyone say that they must have off. And then your 4 to 5 late days are made up. Pulling back and looking at all that has occurred over the past almost year, and when the subject of lack of trust and transparency comes up, this is why. Maybe it hasn't been intentional, but it has happened. The question is, how does it get resolved and where does the healing begin? I think it begins with voting for a traditional post-Labor Day calendar, which is what the board voted for back in December, and is what so many of the community members have been calling for through all of this. Let's start over, let's do this right, engage the community, ask for volunteers to help seek out the programs, the schedules, the tools that we need to do what's best for the awesome students of District 241. Engage the teachers, asking them for their help and their bountiful knowledge. Show the community and the teachers respect, the same respect that you have asked from us. Give this more time. Time to have the school board and administration, teachers, community members, students work as one. We all love Albert Lea, and we want it to be a community that other communities look at as a functional, wonderful community to be part of, not one that has lived in dysfunction and upheaval like we have over the past almost 12 months.
Thank you for your time. My heart has been heavy through all of this, and I look forward to a new beginning, hopefully starting tonight. Thanks for putting up with the long letter.
Thanks to both of you. Thank you. Okay, so I need a motion to approve today's agenda.
So moved.
Bill's first, second.
Second?
Julie, any discussion? All in
Couple
favor?
comments on it.
Yep.
We've added the ATTPS memo That is as part of the consent, that is an annual thing we do for the alternative teacher compensation program. So there's a tentative agreement with the union on that. We're doing it now since this is the only meeting we have in March. Typically, we would wait for them to sign it, but we have an agreement with them, so I'm recommending approval tonight so that we can hire the case facilitators, the coordinators moving forward here. And the second thing we added this afternoon was cancellation of the March 16th meeting.
Other discussion? All in favor for today's agenda, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item 5, consent items. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Linda, second? Dave, any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 6, 6.1, Dr. Funk.
The first thing I'd like to say, and it's not in my update, but congratulations to the wrestling team on their second place finish at the state tournament. I think they gave Simley all they could handle in the championship match, and it was they represented Albert Lee very well. Secondly, Garrett Aldrich was a two-time defending state champ now. He won at 120 pounds, and his claim to fame from the tournament, at least in 2A, I think he was the only state champion to pin his opponent in the championship match. So those were two real positive things. As Hannah did a very nice job, thank you, that looked great yesterday in the newspaper, the great graphic. As you saw in the press, our graduation rate as a district is starting to trend in the right direction. You can see as a school district, we have gone up to 76.6%. This includes Albert Lee area high school students and Albert Lee area learning center students as well. So that's a real positive. Another positive, and the board has heard me say this quite a bit, and I think Hannah commented it on in the paper. One thing that I don't like as your superintendent is what I call the roller coaster effect. And that is from year to year, we may go up one year, we may go down the next, we may go up, we may go down. And that doesn't necessarily demonstrate a real trend. What you see in front of us here is a positive trend line since 2011. We have been going up every single year with our graduation rate, and it was a pretty significant spike last year from about 5% increase over 2013. So I want to give kudos to the high school staff for all their efforts in this. And again, I think if we continue building the positive relationships and we implement the academy plan that the board approved the other night, I think we will continue to see dividends here. Last week, I had an opportunity to go up to the Capitol. Linda Laurie was there as well, representing the district. We had school board members from Austin, La Crescent, and New London Spicer, and we went around in a group of about 17 people, superintendents and school board members, and we talked to different senators and representatives, and the main theme for us in our discussion was this concept of allowing school boards to approve at the district level alt facilities bonding. So if we have a roof to repair, we don't have to take it out of our general fund. We can, if we need to, do a levy for it. And that keeps the cuts away from education, from the general education of teaching our students. We encourage all the legislators to pass an adequate increase for student funding. The governor's plan has 1%, and 1% increase to the student funding formula will not cut it for this district or any district really in the state of Minnesota. We had an opportunity to share concerns about the governor's universal preschool plan. I think universal preschool is great, and I think it's a target that we eventually want to shoot for, but a lot of districts just went to all-day kindergarten this year. They didn't have the buildings for it, and now the governor is saying we want universal education for 4-year-olds. So there's some funding issues with that, and then just the capital facilities of actually having buildings for the students. And then we all were told that they're looking at about $1 billion surplus to spend, and lo and behold, the budget forecast came out Friday afternoon, and it was $800 million increase, so now they have $1.8 billion. So I feel fairly confident we are going to see inadequate increase on our student funding formula with that much money in a surplus in the legislature. So we'll see where it ends up on these other things. And that's all I have today. Questions of me?
So, universal preschool, how would that impact our district as far as space and everything?
It would, basically, we're not, you don't get the full funding for it. And he's pushing all day, every day. So I think the top issue would be space for us at this point. They have a plan out there right now that does scholarships, and I kind of like the scholarship idea from the angle of it doesn't impact the local economy by closing down local child care providers. His plan would be basically the district would provide universal 4-year-old school, we would do it, and that might impact the children's center, it might impact it in a preschool. So the scholarship idea, I like from the angle of let's work with our local schools to ensure that they're meeting the needs of our kids. If they've got rigorous criteria, rigorous curriculum in place, but let's still continue to work with them and let's not negatively impact the community. Because if we went with his complete plan, the district would hire the teachers and we would impact some of the other entities.
Other questions? All right, member reports, Gabriel?
Me and Quinn have approved of each student member for our task force. The only thing we have left is for the adults of the community that we need. So if any of you wanted to join, that'd be really appreciated for me and Quinn. Since she's not here today, thank you. That's pretty much it.
Thanks, Gabe. Linda, Bill?
Again, like Mike said, he and I were up at the Capitol, and it was a great experience, really fun. Got to visit with a lot of interesting people and heard a lot of things, so that was really good. Actually, today, Dr. Seuss's birthday, I was able to read in a couple schools. Shelley Burkhart's class, I see Shelley's here. Thank you for coming, Shelley, at Hawthorne, and then also Ashley Peterson's class at Lakeview. So it's pretty fun to get in there and just kind of see those little kids and what they're doing. So that's about it.
Dave, anything?
Yeah, I had a chance to read today at Chris Burnett's room, and I don't know if she made it or not, but had a lot of fun making all sorts of noises with the kids. I was talking about Mr. Brown, can you? Yeah, we did. We had a lot of fun. I did. I'm a noise kind of guy. And also the science fair there a weekend or so ago with Julie and Mark and Jill were there. It was a lot of fun to see the new scientists coming out and some of their ideas, and nothing blew up, so that was good too. So.
Was there any words today that tripped you up you want to ask about, or? Okay.
Splat. It came up. That was a thunder. That was a thunder. I think it was. So,
Thanks. Jill, anything?
I also enjoyed the science fair judging, and then I also read in Shelley Burkhart's classroom today in Hawthorne, grade 4. We had a great time.
Same here. Okay, item 7.1, district reading update, Mary Jo Dorman. Mary Jo?
I'm pretty low there. Okay, I'll try and talk softer now. Okay. So just from a district perspective, a reading update. Thank you. Today, we had all the second graders at Halverson get on a bus, head to City Hall, and they signed a community proclamation called Read Across Albert Lee Day. I did invite the news people, but they didn't show, but they're here now, so. And so, I didn't mean that like that, sorry. I know you're busy. But I got to promote literacy however I can, so I saw cameras. So anyway, the second graders arrived to City Hall. They were greeted by Patty Graybrook, the children's librarian, in her Cat in the Hat costume or outfit. They then went into the council chambers and signed with Mayor Rasmussen a city proclamation to designate today as Read Across Albert Lee Day. And it was pretty special for these second graders. We will have a YouTube video, so you'll be able to watch it. It just didn't get uploaded. I tried all afternoon and it went upload to YouTube, but I'll explain where you can find that a little bit later. Some updates. One of our goals was to find a guaranteed and viable curriculum for reading in the district. And again, before we found that curriculum, we worked for about a year deciding what does this district need through a reading committee. We did a lot of research. We talked to national researchers. We did a lot of work, found the curriculum that best met our need, and I can report at this day we're very, very happy with it. The nice thing about it is if you're a student in Lakeview and during the year you move and you go to Halverson, you won't miss a beat of reading instruction. You're going to get that systematic, explicit instruction no matter what building you're in, at high levels. Teachers have adopted with fidelity. Teachers have done an absolutely fabulous job. We've had lots of staff development training. We continue to talk reading, student achievement, and we're just very pleased where we are with it in the district. And again, the rigorous instruction is really where that Common Core, the very important high instruction comes in. And I know we talk a lot about that kids are receiving instruction at their level, and I thought might give a couple examples tonight of what does that mean. Last year, we had a kindergarten student who was non-English speaking and happened to be in one building, and this kindergarten teacher worked, and questioned, like, am I doing the right thing? And we said, yes, stay true to the core of what we're here to do. Do not veer. This child will receive the same instruction, but then more instruction at that student's level. This year, that student transferred to Lakeview. So now, Halverson last year, Lakeview this year. And last week, the first grade teacher came up to me. I was in the building, and the teacher was very excited. And a teacher who doesn't get overly excited, so it was really cool to see that, just said, Mary Jo, I got to share this with you. This is so awesome. And she said this student is already in the middle, meeting the middle of grade level expectations for first grade. He is a reader. And so I think when we go back to that guaranteed and viable, let's not veer. It gets frustrating at sometimes that there's a lot to learn, a lot to do, but let's not try doing our own things. Let's just stick to what we know research says we need to do. So when we talk at kids learning at their own level, he is being instructed at his level. And I know we've talked about leveled books because you looked at these when we adopted. So this first grader who, again, knew no English last year is in a book like this now. That is pretty impressive. Hold on, I gotta show the cameras. I know Mary Williams is passing out some of these books as we speak, just so the audience can see what leveled books look like. On the same point, we have other first graders. We're all at different levels, and whatever level they're at is what they are being instructed at. And so, working at Halverson last week, I had the teacher asked if I would model this to one of the higher level groups. This is actually a second grade level book, and it's how cotton goes from the plant to the shirt. What level? Are you asking me? Oh. So anyway, this group of students are in a second grade instructional level, but yet they're first grade. And so again, when we talk about individual instruction, that's what it's looking like in the classroom. And the best thing is to show how we really push those high students is these kids are just magical at reading. They're great. But then when you get to some of the higher rigorous questions, it is fun working with first graders. And one of the questions was, I asked this group, I said, now why do we have to clean the cotton? And they all looked at me, and cricket, cricket. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing the work for you. It's in the book. Get back in the book. And so we're really teaching that text dependence, which is a new, really, it's at higher level. So when we talk about the MCA scores, when we were at an MCA level 2, and we went to the new test MCA level 3, that's where the high rigor came of text dependence. And it's not so much creative questions anymore. It's more text dependent. And so these first graders had to search, and they were reading the whole book. They were doing all their strategies. But the one strategy they forgot is that we also need to read captions. And they were not reading the captions because in the captions it says, you need to clean the cotton because there's seeds and dirt in it. And finally one little boy is like, I got it, I got it. And then all the other groups looking like where he found it. So reading is awesome, and it's a joy to teach kids to read. And our teachers are doing fantastic at it. So we're going to continue to see some good results. The next item out there is the K-1 books being sent home. And I remember when I presented before we adopted, Jill's already shaking her head. She remembers too. She questioned me and said, but these are awesome books. Are we sure we want to send these home? And the reason as a district we made the decision, yes, we are going to send these home, is because research has shown that kids have to reread books at their level. And a kindergartner and a first grader has trouble going into a library, picking out an appropriate book for them to reread at home. Great storybooks for mom or dad or grandma to read, but it's hard for a first grader to find a book that they can read at home. So we made the decision as a district to say, books are our business, we're gonna send them home. And so I thought I'd report today. As a district, all 4 buildings, the total that we ended up spending to replace the books was $180. That's well worth our money. And so we're continuing to do that. The next thing is Albert Lee Reads. And this is a YouTube site we made for new teachers, existing teachers, parents, that they can go in and just see how we teach reading, what we're doing in classrooms. Ashley, we'll page down a little bit. You can see some of the topics. And this is where the second grader is going to City Hall today. This will be on the YouTube site. Again, it's not there quite yet. But if you go to YouTube channel or youtube.com, just type in for the channel, Albert Lee Reads, and you will see about 45 videos that just are informational. They're fun. There's I Love to Read Month at Lakeview, so you can see the Lakeview staff putting on an I Love to Read Month skit for the entire student population. It's just really bringing reading to light of everything going on in the district. And on another fun note, Amber Jensen, a 4th grade teacher at Sibley, got an email a couple weeks ago from a teacher in North Carolina. And she said, hey, I watched your video of you teaching guided reading. I really liked how you use this management tool. Would you mind sharing that with me? So it's like our local teachers are becoming stars, and we'll take that however we can get it. So anyway, YouTube, and just go to the channel. It's called Albert Lee Reads, and you'll get to our site. Did I have a time limit today? You didn't give me a time, so I'm okay. Okay. The next thing, I think one of the other reasons we've been very successful is we have a reading committee structure here in the district that is extremely effective. We have a teacher at every grade level in every building on this committee. The feedback going back and forth and saying, oh, this part isn't quite working, and everybody kind of chipping in with ideas or things we need to fix, we're just able to respond very quickly to resolve things or make sure something gets fixed. Or, oh, we realized in MCA's coming up that we didn't teach chronological order. Hey, everybody, this is one of our things if you'd add to your instructional lessons. So I just want to give kudos publicly to the reading committee. A lot of teachers sit on it. A lot of teachers have done tremendous amounts of work on it, and so that's a big part of our success. The next update is the parent meetings, literacy events, and buildings. We do a lot of celebrating with books whenever there's parent meetings, literacy events. We're trying to give away free books from grants we get. We've even done some non-English speaking meetings during the day. We'll have the translators come in, and then I'll do a little reading, what do you call it? Just training session on how they can help their child at home. And I have shown them one of the Albert Lee Reads videos of a kindergarten teacher teaching reading. And when it was over, I asked them, I said, is this how you think we teach reading? And they're all like, no way. And I'm like, well, how do you think we're teaching reading? And the parents said, well, I thought you guys just read to them and they kind of learned. And so I think that's kind of cool to show parents, you know what? Teachers are working hard to teach their kids reading. So they were very impressed, and they said, make sure to tell our teachers thank you. The next thing is the district assessment for reading and math. We are no longer doing NWEA test or Ames Web, and we've moved to what's called FAST, which stands for Formative Assessment System for Teachers. It's out of the U of M, or developed by the U of M, and it's just a system to more quickly assess children 3 times a year, so we can kind of have some benchmark data on their reading comprehension. And where an NWA test could take like 2 hours for a kid to take, even in 2nd, 3rd grade, now it's about 15 minutes. And starting with this FAST test this year, the University of Minnesota heard some of the things we're doing to align our reading to say that, you know what, if our instruction is accurate and a classroom teacher is saying, I got a kid in a 5th grade level book, they really should be passing the MCA test, because MCA test is 5th grade level material. Our instruction should be meshing. And so we shouldn't have to do all this extra MCA practice stuff. We should just be doing good instruction. So last year, that was what we told staff we'd start working towards, that make sure that the integrity of your lessons are, if they're a 5th grade student, if they're not at that level, at a 5th grade level, don't put them there. Make sure you have them in an accurate level. And then over time, we're going to see ourselves see that MCA scores and guided reading levels match. We thought it might take a year, 2, 3 years to really get that to mesh. And first year it meshed. And the University of Minnesota heard what we're doing of trying to align instruction with MCA, so there's no extra practice other than, we have to show kids how the test works, so they're not stumped when they see how questions are asked. But that good instruction will lead to passage. And so an example, Sibley 4th grade last year, I think they had 72% of the kids say that these kids in their guided reading books were at a 5th grade level. 73% passed the MCA. That's what we need to happen, that just good instruction will predict. And so when we have data meetings in January, we can now look at where kids are at, and we can predict very closely what percentage will pass the MCA, just for our own data needs. Book grants. We continue to write a lot of grants to get as many books as we can in the hands of students. 2 of the grants we got, I just wanted to point this out because I think it's pretty cool, is one of the grants we got approved for was, the response back was, this was from Disney, that they like our community involvement with the city, the public library, the mayor, that we are just talking reading, reading, reading. And then this grant happened 2 weeks ago, where wrote a grant explaining that we're trying to build the libraries, home libraries, of our students in need, especially the non-English speaking parents, because books are expensive. And so Mo Willems, who's a very popular children's author, he just sent us 600 free books. So I think we're just really just trying to find any grants out there and make this happen for kids. Can you tell we like reading? This, I just wanted to point out quick. Some parents in the audience may have seen it, because we do share this at conferences, or some teachers do. But to show, if you look at the column that just says minutes per day, There's 2 columns, books and text. We're just going to look at the one that says books. And this is based on a 5th grade reading study, so you can kind of estimate 4th grade, 6th grade, et cetera. It will be a little bit different. But the really awesome thing to see here is that if a student is reading 65 minutes in a day in a book, in 1 year they will have seen about 4,358,000 words. Where you can see a non-reader who's maybe only reading 5 minutes a day will be about 300,000. And so we really need to get this message out that reading does make a difference. Oh, and the other thing that I know I shared with 5th grade parents at conferences is the percentile rank on the left side there. That is for standardized tests. And so this research is correlated to like the ACT, that if you have a kid who's reading an hour a day, they are those kids who are scoring very high on standardized tests. And then I'd always tell parents, which means money in your pocket, because the higher your student scores on those ACT scores, the more merit dollars they'll get. So kind of a 2-message piece there. We will be having a public library event May 19th and 20th, and it will be 2 buildings from the elementary schools the 19th and 2 buildings on the 20th. The summer reading theme at the public library this year is Children Are Superheroes. It's our opportunity to promote summer reading. Again, we give away more free books. The firemen are there, the policemen. And last year we did this. This will be our 2nd year of doing it. Last year we had 1,100 people attend. It is a well-attended event, and it's a great kickoff to get that summer reading message out there. Preschool, just sharing that, we've been doing more collaboration with the preschools. And this year we took the kindergarten data and shared it with the preschools so they could see what the students they had in preschool are coming to kindergarten with. And great data, and kind of shows if there's any things we need to be working on. Quick update on Southwest. We have a leveled library, books like this, the leveled we talked about. We're getting those into Southwest. And teachers are working on reading comprehension strategies a lot there, so in the content area. So making some progress there. And then this was just
So
kind
is that 45 minutes? Is that how long you're going to talk, or is that how much?
I'm done. I'm almost done. Sorry.
Just checking.
Okay. It's reading. Nobody gave me a time limit, so I'm sure I'll get one next time. But the average amount of time a student reads in school, now this is not their reading block because that's 120 minutes. This is just the number of minutes they're working with a teacher at their instructional level and the amount of time that we ask them to be independent reading. And if they're if an intervention student or special ed, this will actually be a lot more than that. But the average student reads about 45 minutes in a day in those 2 areas. And so I just put it out, food for thought. In a month, that student reads about 900 minutes. So those of you who know why I would love a 45, 15-day calendar is based on when we really think about that. And we are working on the summer loss issues there for reading, and we'll continue to keep working on that. I'm almost done. The other thing we're doing in the district is making a protocol sheet of here are our expectations for reading. So if you're a new teacher next year and you walk in, we can hand you this 15-page packet we're making, and we'll go over it with you. But so a new teacher walking in this district is not completely overwhelmed, as they kind of were this year. So, because they didn't get all the training that the staff got to implement this. So the change for next year is when we do our 3-day new teacher hire, curriculum will be a bigger piece of those 3 days. And my final comment is just this quote, and you can read it. Questions?
Questions for Mary Jo? I think it's just, I think it's great that you have so much enthusiasm for what you do, and it shows, and I just appreciate that, and because I'm sure it rubs off on the other teachers and the kids.
Thanks. Our kids like to read here.
Other questions or comments?
I do have a
Linda?
question. Mary Jo, with all of your bountiful knowledge that you have regarding reading and whatnot, how do the things that you talked about today relate to the two proposed calendars that we're looking at?
Really? I want to leave on a positive note, escape out of here. No, I shouldn't say that. Professionally, having friends who live in Colorado, who lived in Albert Lea and moved to Colorado and went to a 45-15, after visiting them, talking to them, they would never come back to a traditional calendar. And research will say, I will say this, one of the big researchers that we have followed, he's one of the top National 5 guys, he will tell us summer reading loss, if we don't start addressing that, we will not close the achievement gap. Because we have our kids moving forward. The problem is, if you just think about that last thing of 900 minutes in a month of instructional reading and that independent reading, a Title I student will get another 25 minutes on top of that every day, because they will get their first scoop in the classroom with the teacher, the second scoop with the Title I teacher for reading. And so when you take all those minutes of instruction, I so deeply value what the teachers are doing in instruction that we can't just say in 3 months missed of 2,700 minutes, which is about 45 hours. When they come back in, we already have the data because we level all students at the end of in the spring, which we did last year. They come in the fall, and we're backtracking. And so we have great growth. Yes, I'm excited about reading. Yes, I love what I do. But the reality is that achievement gap, it's hard to swallow because it's like, I know we need to do something different. And I have a foreign exchange student this year in Norway, or from Norway, living with me now. I asked about his school calendar, and he said they go till about like June 18th last year. And then they start in the beginning of August. And like, August, you're in Norway. I mean, you got the fjords and everything else. And he said, well, that's all we're used to. I'm like, oh. And so you hear all that. And I think I said that to some of you, that I just feel like in Minnesota, we're starting to lose our touch. We were always the national leaders. And now I see all these other states going to modified calendars or the 45-15s. Well, it's with reason. And as a nation, I think the latest I heard on the news last week was that about 50% of the school children in the nation are in poverty. So it's a tough one.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll make it quicker next time.
That's all right. Okay, item 9, effective and efficient operations. 9.1, approval of the school calendar for 2015-16. This is an action item. So an action item, in order to have discussion, requires a motion, a second, and then discussion. And since we have 2 calendars, I would be looking for a motion to approve the calendar that starts with instructional days on September 8th, which I will now refer to as the post-Labor Day calendar. So would someone like to make a motion to approve that calendar?
I'll move approval.
First by Jill, is there a second?
Second.
Julie, second. Okay, discussion?
First thing I want to say is, in Ms. Hill's comments, the concern about the trust issue in Good Friday was brought up, and I will state I misspoke. We discussed as a school board last spring the whole Good Friday issue, and the board had a pretty good discussion on whether or not we should have school on Good Friday because of the whole community aspect of it and the religious traditions that go along with it. What we ended up doing, and this is where I misspoke, at the end of the day is we required teachers to come to school on Good Friday and work, but we didn't require students to come. So that's where I was mistaken, and I misspoke, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Other discussion? Bill?
With regards to the post-Labor Day calendar that we're looking at right now, I can't support it, and the reason I can't is, first of all, I do believe in getting the semester done before Christmas, and then all the other information that's come forward from the teaching staff as well as the administrative staff, it was almost unanimous. I don't remember, I think I might have received one email or one phone call that stated that they were indifferent, but the majority of them, vast majority, were all in favor of the pre-Labor Day start, and I respect their expertise in this particular area, and I appreciate their advice as well. So that's the way I'm going to be going.
Other comments?
Yep, I just have a couple of comments. I think we've talked so many times about calendar, and so some things have been repeated, so I apologize for the things that will be repetitious from what I've said before. I think no calendar is ever going to be perfect, and there's always going to be some people who like one calendar better than another, and one calendar has merit. There are pros and cons, I guess, of both calendars and of any calendar that we put out there. For me, while I see lots of the potential benefits of the pre-Labor Day calendar, I continue to come back to what the community has told us over the last year, and it's that they want a traditional calendar. And I feel we as a board need to put, and maybe this isn't a good reference, but put out the olive branch to show that we want to have credibility and trust with our community. And so I feel the way that we need to move forward in doing so is by having a traditional calendar this year. I think it's late for families who've already made decisions about flex dollars for daycare and family vacations and plans they've already made for August, as well as the FFA and 4-H students that would be impacted. So I just feel that those considerations outweigh, given the circumstances that have happened in the last year. And so I just feel as a board, we need to honor our community and what they've told us. And so that's why I support that calendar.
Other comments? Linda, anything? Dave?
Just a few things. First, it's been not just an interesting 2 weeks, and I'll apologize for being sick last week, but I don't think you wanted me to bring that in, do you? I have had an opportunity to talk to a lot of students, a lot of teachers from outside of our school district, administrators, southwestern Minnesota, and asked a lot of questions. I like to ask questions, and as Julie said, and we can even see amongst us, there's really no definite answer here. There's probably a right answer and there's probably a best answer. I'm disappointed that from a new school board member situation that the calendar itself has even been moved from being a consent item. That makes it easy, doesn't it? We just voted in. But, I think debate is excellent. No different than the debate we had for healthcare a few years ago. And as we see, that was, you can use your own judgment on that. But anyway, we'll leave it at that. It's real unfortunate that the way school is set up in Minnesota is that we've got 4 months in the fall and 5 months in the spring. And if you want to get the same amount of teaching done, you got to about split it right in the middle, and that makes it January. I'll tell you as a parent, and I'll tell you as talking to a number of students, I've always thought it was, as I use the term ludicrous, to have to come back for 2 weeks for these kids to relearn, restudy, and take their tests. However, it has worked, so I can't tell you that, any one way is better than another. I see benefits in both. I really do. I was a past 4-H county agent for a couple summers. Had a lot of experience there. I was even offered an FFA teaching job, so I've been around those kids, and I use that term kind of loosely, but they're great kids. They got a lot of things on their plate. There's no real definite answer, and it's too bad that in a sense, and I don't look at it this way, that we have to have winners and losers on this whole deal. I think we're going to have it on both ends. I do think that we do need to make some changes. I don't think it just is necessarily in the structure, but I really like this academy that we're starting with the 8th and 9th graders. I think it's excellent. But I do, as I mentioned to Mark, I do think we need to do something with the 10th through 12th, because I don't want anyone to fall through the cracks. But as a teacher for a number of years, I can tell you this, just like in any job, people fall through the cracks, and we don't want that. So anything that we can do to catch these people, and it's not just in school. Finally, like I said, I want to see us heal, as Julie would say, but I want to see us go forward with a attitude that whatever we decide is going to be the best for the majority of the people. And I guess as I see it, and if I haven't said it before, I guess there's probably a right vote. And as I said before, I'll always do my best, and I'll give a best vote for tonight. Thanks.
This has been a long process. Like we said, we did start in April. And I was at the lead with that whole calendar, as you know. I just want to go back and tell everyone that this is not Dr. Funk's calendar. These calendars, as Mark said, he was driving these calendars. So no matter what people say and the things that have been said and people have been hurt, this is not Dr. Funk's calendar like I keep reading on social media, and I would really like to stop that. The process wasn't the best. The process was not the best from the start. I apologize for that. It was a learning situation for all of us. You know what we did when we, you do what you can do with the knowledge you have at the time. So I think that's, part of that. Julie, you said about the community. I believe part of our community, a huge part of our community is our teachers. They work here, they live here, they have students, their kids live here. They're part of the community too. So I said this before, and I was criticized how I said it before, but I believe the teachers, they are in there with the students every day. I think they know what's best for students. Like Bill said, he got one email from out of the whole bunch of them that was, against the early start. The teachers are, from what I heard, do not go for the post start. Some of them are ELL teachers. We've got administration, we've got community members that are in support of the pre-calendar. I guess, people keep saying that the calendar was voted down 3-3. Yes, it didn't pass, but it doesn't mean that it can't come back again. I guess people don't understand that. And there are a lot of good things going on in our community. There are a lot of good things going on in our school district that the community doesn't know about. So I feel badly when they say that, things aren't happening, but there are great things. Mary Jo sat here and talked for 45 minutes and probably could have talked longer. So anyway, so, I think that's about all I'll say. And again, I don't understand the flex daycare part of that. I know I used to flex money for my kids, so I don't quite remember how that works. But again, the FFA and the 4-H, I know it's a huge deal. Kids miss school all the time. There's 13 or 14 students. We have kids that are missing for hockey, football, all kinds of things all the time. So, again, that's all I'll say for now. Thanks.
Thanks, Linda. Jill, you have comments?
Yes. Yeah, sorry. I appreciate having the 2 weeks that we've had since the last meeting, and I appreciate us all being able to be at the table for tonight. Yeah, don't get sick, Dave. And I appreciate that we're going to walk out of here with a calendar, hopefully, tonight, no matter what that looks like. And, but it has given me more time to receive community input about the newest calendars to be considered. And I think there is a lot of, well, I'll start this way. I do see also, you know, pros and cons for each one, and I do appreciate the feedback we've gotten from teaching staff as far as what would be a lot of the benefits to a pre-Labor Day calendar. My main issue right now is just, I think it's too late for this year to implement a pre-Labor Day calendar. I'm open to considering it for, you know, another year, if everyone's on board for that. But I think we're kind of in a double bind this year. With the late Labor Day, it kind of motivated the whole discussion because it is so late, you know, what are the possibilities for moving it forward? But out of necessity then, because it is late, that pushes 2 full weeks of class days ahead of Labor Day, where another year would have less community impact. And I'm just hearing a lot of community impact. I agree with what Julie and Dave have said about issues, and I believe with the flex time, I guess, issue is that and I don't know a lot about it, but I believe it's a calendar issue, a calendar January to December calendar. So they employees have to put in an amount before the end of the year of what they need to set aside for that coming year. So that means that they would have set aside more money for childcare in September and now don't need it and are out that money. That's my understanding of the flex care situation. I think it's just that it's this year and that, so it's like from January 15th to December 15th. So they lose those 2 weeks in September and can't recoup them in May because that's the next year. I think that's the situation. That's my understanding. Well, their calendar year and we're kind of going school year, and I think that's where they just haven't had time to, well, they've planned the best that they could with the direction that we were giving, and when we moved away from the modified calendar in December, people did their best to plan this year, anticipating what I call traditional calendar for Albert Lee. For Albert Lee, for me, a traditional calendar starts after Labor Day and ends the first Friday of June. And, you know, we can call, you know, it's just a word or a term, but to me, that's what's tradition for Albert Lee. So I think that's what people were planning for. And vacations are scheduled and cannot be changed at this time. And there will be families that will be missing out on time together. And, you know, none of us are guaranteed that we'll have that chance again next year. So I guess my big point is the timing. I believe the community hasn't had the opportunity to prepare properly for a pre-Labor Day start this year. I'm also wondering about some of the benefits of a pre-Labor Day calendar, and I'm hearing a lot about MCA testing. And I'm just wondering, you know, if we're really looking at student performance and student success, is moving the calendar for better performance on MCAs really doing our students benefit, or is it doing our district benefit? Because it's almost like we are, you know, we've been teaching to the test, we talk about that all the time, now we're almost like calendaring to the test. We're moving the calendar to better manipulate test results, but is it really our kids learning more? I don't think so. It's maybe gonna make the district look in a better light with a higher MCA, but I don't know if we're really attaining our goal there of increasing student performance if we're just moving the goalposts a little bit closer. I'm also, with the high school situation with finals, moving closer to the kids and less loss of learning and possibly lower, stress levels. I think we have to be careful that we don't make assumptions at how things work, because some students and they'll experience more stress one way moving, if we moved it beforehand, the kids that do use Christmas break or winter break for that do increase stress. So I think we have to be careful that we're not assuming that things are going to be easier for one or the other. And I just see a lot of problems with the timing of this calendar, and I would like to see us go with a traditional Albert Lee calendar this year and work together cooperatively moving forward for next year. And if we do, for next year, decide to move anything before Labor Day, I would really like to see us do that by November this year so that families can plan. And I know we tried to do that this year, but it just didn't work out the way that we had wanted it to.
I just want to clarify a couple of things. First of all, this pre-Labor Day calendar, as I tried to say last meeting, is of my origination in my design, based completely on my discussion with teaching staff. From all the things we went through last year, that was the one common theme, that we would like to end the first semester before the Christmas break. And that is the origination of this calendar. Now, does Dr. Funk like that calendar? He does. The alternative is we have a superintendent who doesn't have a passion about either calendar and just sits there and doesn't take a stance. So I appreciate that he's passionate about one side, and I also agree that you can disagree with him. But as I asked in January, I simply cannot tolerate personal attacks. I cannot tolerate it. It just goes against my very being of trying to have civilized discussions about something as important as their school district. And so I'm going to ask again, when we have discussions about other items, if you disagree with Mark Schode or Mike Funk or Bill Leland, I think it's fine to disagree about the topic, but please don't call us names. I'm just asking that politely. I have not done that back. I do not plan to do that. But it just doesn't help these discussions that we're having. And I apologize if that sounds like a lecture, but it really, really upsets me. I have sat down over the last, after the last year, but the last few weeks, with 3 individuals who are polar opposite of my calendar idea. And we had a great discussion. We never agreed on the calendar, but we just ended up understanding each other. And in all cases said, if there's something that comes up, we'd like to help each other. Great discussions, great outcomes. We never agreed on anything. And so I just find it offensive that when I ask for people's opinions on an email or a phone call and we couldn't meet in person, and I get the garbage that I got. And I just am asking that it stop, please. So let me talk about calendars. I categorically disagree that finals were not discussed the last go-around. I spoke with every educator about that. I'll remind everybody that I voted against the last balanced calendar because there was a lot of negativity, and the teaching staff was 60-40, 50-50. I couldn't really tell. So I asked for more teacher input. This time around, I asked for teacher input, and the overwhelming response is positive. I have one phone call and one email against starting after Labor Day. All the others are asking to start pre-Labor Day. Every teacher but those 2, and I have 2 teachers that say they'll just teach whenever we ask them to. So an overwhelming change in the position of the teachers and also in the community. I think there is not nearly as much negative as there was. And I'm not discounting all of these issues that we've talked about, and I tried to make that clear last time as well. Flex care dollars are very concerning. There is a new law that allows you to carry your flex dollars forward into the next calendar year. 4-H, also an issue. That's a student group. We already work with all kinds of student groups that miss school. We had 16 wrestlers that missed 4 days of school. We have 78 choir students who are going to miss 2 days of school coming up in the spring to go to Hawaii. Our youth and government program has gone from about 150 students down to less than 50 because of the timing of the calendar. Nobody seems to come and talk about those students. We already work with all kinds of student groups that miss school, and we would have to have a commitment from administration and teaching staff, which I have, that we would continue to work with those students. I'm going to hang my hat on it's what the teachers think are best for our kids, and overwhelmingly, they have told me that they want to start pre-Labor Day because of the finals issue and because of they think the ability to teach kids with the testing that they have to do in the spring. That is what our teachers want. The administration completely supports that, and so that's my position. And again, I don't want to discount all of the other issues because they are important to individuals. But if we want to put the needs of our students first, then I'm going to be supporting the calendar that starts a few days early. Other discussion? Dave?
Just one thing I just want to say, whatever calendar we do decide on, and I hope we do, I have total confidence in Dr. Funk, our principals, our administration, and our teachers that they will get the job done. I know they will. I know the kids will be here when they're supposed to. I know they'll achieve. And like I said, it just seems, I do have total confidence in what they've decided, what we've looked at as a calendar as a group too.
And thanks, Dave. And then the other thing too is, and and I'll take responsibility for it, we are doing a lot of other things, we just haven't done a good job of informing people. We have an ACES REACH program coming up in April at the second April board meeting. We have the academy going. We're working with some local employers to get a school work relationship going. So there are a lot of activities that we're trying that have nothing to do with the calendar. And again, I think we just need to do a better job of letting people know that those are the types of things we're working on.
And I think just by the fact that we're broadcasting now, people will start to hear a lot more of the different things we're doing that you as board members hear.
Other discussion? Gabe?
As we were talking about students, and I am a student myself, when this was brought up 2 weeks ago, I made it a mission to ask all my friends and any other kids that I knew. Most of them said they wanted a calendar before Christmas break to end first semester, because this is not just the kids who are A students, but these are the kids who are failing themselves. I am friends with kids who fail, and it's okay. But they say it helps them not just relieve stress, but that's the end material before you start a whole new semester. And not just for those kids, but I looked at younger kids. I have my siblings, and my sister, who will be going to 8th grade next year, said she thought it was weird that we have 2 weeks after Christmas break, and she said even her teachers now were struggling to get their stuff in before the end of student semester because those mean grades. My brother, who goes to Lakeview, I don't know what they do again, isn't it? It's not semesters, it's trimesters, but teachers, quarters? Trimesters? So I thought so. I remember he brought homework home because he was trying to rush before Christmas break because his teachers knew that they were going to lose learning before they start a new whole thing. And we talk about community members. Well, let's see, the high school itself is around 1,300 students, which is about 10% of our community itself, if you look about 18,000 people. So most of our students even support it. That's 10% of your community. You talk about teachers, well, have students, you said you've talked to students, but have we actually sat there and talked with a whole group of students? Have there been an assembly where we have my whole school come in and say, what do you think? Have you had the middle school involved in what they think? Because we may be young, but we still know things. We still comprehend what's going on around us. And sometimes you do have kids who their inputs are involved from their parents, but you also have kids who think of their own, not just from their parents. So if I do support of the calendar before Labor Day, but that's just me thinking as a college kid next year, because that's what's like in college. If you set it aside, is you start demanding it now, that so when kids go to college, it's not a shock. Like, hey, I already had this before. This is easy. And also, I went to Glenville kindergarten here, which is the first year they enforced full year kindergarten. As I remember people talking about it when the modified calendar was brought up, how having a full year kindergarten was a huge deal in our community. There was uproar about it because they're saying, why you're gonna have five and 6 year olds in a full day at school. But now that's normal. I mean, I remember in my Glenville classroom, there was 20 kids and they had 2 classes, and the graduating class at Glenville is 9. But parents put their kids into a full day of kindergarten from Albert Lee because they wanted their kids to get an extra push, an extra start, so they can excel. So ending this, I'm gonna say, in the end, you've chose this for our students, and don't forget that just because some community members, in the end, it is for the students, and that's who matters the most.
Other discussion, comments? So there's a motion on the table that has been seconded to approve the post-labor calendar, and I'm going to do a roll vote, and I will just go around the table unless there's any other comments or discussion. Linda?
No.
Bill?
No.
Dave?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And I vote no. So that is 3-3. That motion does not have a majority. All right. So now I need a motion, again, before we can have more discussion, to approve the calendar that starts August the 25th from now I'll refer to as the pre-Labor Day calendar. Is there a motion to approve that calendar?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
One question about that calendar. So the week in August of August 17th that's identified as the district days and staff development days, would that be the week then that families would come and like meet their teacher and have pictures taken?
Yes.
Or would that be the week of the 10th of August?
That'd be the week that they come.
Okay.
And I think the question you had earlier, 10 versus 9 as far as development days, so that week of the 17th, we would still have a couple of days there where they go and they have they meet their teachers like we do now. And then we added that extra day on the 24th to do that as well at the elementary level. And then at 6th grade and 8th grade, orientation will take place at the high school, and then they'll be going to school. So that's the difference in the number of 2 days. Yep, you bet.
Other questions, comments, other discussion? Okay, hearing none, then we have a motion which has been seconded to approve the pre-Labor Day calendar, and we'll do the same thing. Linda?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Dave?
No.
Jill?
No.
Julie?
No.
And I vote yes. So again, that motion does not have a majority. Okay, and as we have learned, motions can be brought back up again. We're not finished. We're not leaving the building until we have a calendar. So just if you need to make plans. And it is correct, when a motion is tied or does not have a majority, the motion can be brought up again, and it needs the same process and discussion. And we're going to do it again, and we're going to discuss some more. So, and I'm just going to repeat the process, because we can't have discussion without a motion. So I'd like a motion to approve the post-Labor Day calendar.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Yes, you know, when we started the year, we decided that our guiding tiebreaker, if we were at an impasse, was to determine what would best fit student needs. And I know we have different concepts maybe of what that is right now. I don't know if we can hone that down a little bit. But for me, this year, this post-Labor Day calendar best meets student needs because I believe it is more collaborative with the community at this time, with the community system, with the family systems, and I believe it will be healthiest for the district moving ahead. And I believe that healthier, and I'm not saying the other one isn't healthy, I'm just saying that I believe the environment itself will be healthier if we take a little bit of time and say, let's be a little bit more collaborative with community systems and move ahead that way.
Thank you. Anybody else? Bill?
I've just heard loud and clear from the administrative and especially the teaching staff that it's the pre-Labor Day start that they want. That's the one I'm pushing, period.
Thanks, Bill. Anybody else? Mike?
All I can say is, I've been a superintendent for 10 years, and it's the first time I've seen teachers totally aligned with administration making a recommendation to the school board with a board split like this. So it's just an interesting dynamic, but it's pretty rare when you see the almost universal alignment between teachers and administration on an issue. Thank you.
Other comments? Anyone?
I could make an additional comment that
Thanks, Jim.
that I have had input from teachers on both sides. The ones that are not in favor of pre-Labor Day are less likely to send an email. They are more likely to contact me personally and community members as well. Whenever I'm out, people approach me and give me input. And I guess one sad part of the whole situation is that I'm hearing a lot that people don't approach all of us because they don't feel like they will be heard. A lot of times people kind of feel like they've just throw up their hands and if they're not being heard, they just quit, I guess stop contact, and it's understandable. And organizationally, I think it's understandable too that people are generally less likely to be as open if they are not supporting what leadership is presenting, and that's in any organization, I believe.
I just haven't, I mean, I've had people on every side of every calendar approach me at all hours of all days. So I guess I don't feel that way, but we can agree to disagree on that. Other comments?
Mark, I can say that probably in the situation of being the newbie, they don't really know exactly where I'm at. And I tried to do that earlier because there's benefits in both. And I can say that I've heard from a lot of people on both sides of the issue. It's also an issue that I haven't just started to look at since December, November. I've looked at it before. I looked at it when my kids were here. I like the opportunities that the pre-Labor Day start offers. I've always liked that. I even asked for that, I think, probably back earlier. So you might say, why are you going against that? If I have to weigh out all the issues, and I've heard the teachers on both sides. I've heard teachers from other school districts say how they would fight tooth and nail if they could start pre-Labor Day because of the MCA testing. I don't discount that a bit. I just don't know if the timing's right. I don't know if And I'm not going to put down the process, because it's been a process, and I think it's been a good process. It's nothing we can turn back, but as I look at the benefits at this point, I have to outweigh some of them and align them up the best I can, so, thanks.
Other comments? Okay, so we have a first and a second to approve the post-Labor Day calendar. Roll call, Linda? Bill?
No.
Dave?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And I will vote no. Okay, so that motion does not have a majority. So now I would need a motion to approve the pre-Labor Day calendar.
So moved?
Bill first, is there a second?
So moved.
Linda second. Okay, discussion again. I would like to thank everyone for this discussion and for being so respectful. That's very nice. It's a good thing to see, to let us have our discussion at this point. Other comments?
I do. I know we've had a lot of talk about people and planning. I know people came up to me early in the year, December, January, whatever, not December, January, back in November, and said to me, we have a vacation in August. What should I do about it? And I said, I have no idea. I don't know. But it's so uncertain that, maybe you shouldn't plan it. I don't know. Because who knew? We didn't know what we were going to do. So I totally understand, about family vacations. I mean, I'm the first one. I love doing family vacations with my family. I mean, that's my time. I love being with my family. But again, I think, going for a calendar because someone planned their vacation this time, I don't know that for me is not a valid reason to do the post-start. Again, I value the teachers and what they have said. Like we said, the administration, the teachers, the students. We're hearing from a student right here. Gabe, a student, is telling us what he has heard at the high school. I have a student in high school. I know what these kids are doing. So again, I really trust the administration. I trust the teachers. I trust what they say. And, you can say all you want about getting things aligned with tests, but you know what? If 2 weeks can help them with getting that information in before the end of the year, we are doing a huge disservice to our kids and to our teachers if we're not listening to them and allowing that 2 weeks to get going and get their teaching done. And again, we've heard it from lots of teachers that kids check out in May. You know that. And kids are ready to go back to school in August. You have all been there. You all have students. You have kids who in August you're like, oh my gosh, soccer started up. Wouldn't it be nice just to go to school and go to soccer and do all that, in August? So, and like I said, the springtime can be, a beautiful time of the year. I mean, we can get the pool going early. You can get a jump on those jobs for the kids, the college jobs. These high school kids will be out and they can be competitive with those college kids if that's what they need to do. So, again, I am in total support of the pre-Labor Day start.
Other comments? All right, so we have a motion on the table to approve the pre-Labor Day start calendar. And again, I'll do a roll call. Linda?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Dave?
No.
Jill?
No.
Julie?
No.
And I will vote yes. I would entertain a motion at this point to recess for 5 minutes. I need a second for that.
Second.
It's not debatable. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we're in recess for 5 minutes. I'll remind the board members that open meeting law would allow 3 of us to talk at once, but not 4. All right, we'll come back into session. Everybody can take their seat, thank you. And again, because it's an action item, we have to have a motion in a second, so I'm just going to go, just so we can have more discussion now, I'm going to go back to the post-Labor Day calendar. I just want to make sure I get this right. At one point, I'll make a mistake here. So I need a motion to approve the post-Labor Day calendar.
I'll move approval.
Jill, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Julie. All right, any other discussion?
There's been talk about a trust issue in the district. Talking about community not trusting what's going on with the board. My question is, where is the board and the trust with our teachers, our administration, our students? I mean, our teachers are coming to us and telling us, you know, we can do this, this is what we want. And you guys are sitting there not trusting them and not trusting what they have to say with our kids. So, you know, those teachers go in there every day. They're going in, they're teaching, they're doing everything they can do. And I feel like they're not being trusted here with their opinions.
I just, my reaction to that is I echo Dave's comments earlier that I have total utmost confidence in the abilities of our teaching staff and administration with whatever calendar they're given. They're professionals and they're going to continue to do the job that needs to be done. So for me, it's not at all about not trusting them. I completely trust them and know their professionalism, and I trust our students that they've been successful on a traditional calendar all these years. And I think regardless of what calendar we choose, our kids are going to continue to be successful. I really believe that. So it isn't that I don't trust the teachers or the students. That's not a part of my decision or consideration at all.
And I would also like to say that, as I said before, we need to be careful not to make assumptions. And it's not a trust issue with me either. I appreciate our teachers that they're in there ready to work with whatever parameters they're given for the year, and they're in there to do their best, and they're in there for the students. Some things are not in their control, and those are some of the things as far as family systems and community systems. I very much appreciate their input and willingness to try that. And I'll come back to the point that I said before, that I'd be willing to consider that for another year. But this year, there are a lot of issues, and they're not trust issues with staff, with teachers.
So if we're not leaving this building without a calendar, I'm going to say that again. And the reason for that is, we could, but we're not going to, is because we cannot register our high school students without a calendar. We have to load the system, so we have to have a calendar. Historically, we've done 2-year calendars, so is there a compromise with a post-Labor Day start this year and a pre-Labor Day start next year? Because Labor Day is earlier next year. So you could start a week early, the Monday before Labor Day, and still finish first semester by Christmas.
Is that possible? You can start a week early and.
I believe
be
so.
done?
I mean, we'd have to get a calendar and color it up and count the days. I have looked at that year, just because Christmas is a Saturday, I believe, in,
Ashley's working on a calendar as we speak.
okay. 4th or 5th, yeah. So that's an option as a compromise. What about, it's just unfortunate you
Mark?
two are on this side.
Couple things.
What
Just-
else?
I just want to again restate again, so everyone understands that I do have total confidence in everyone in our school system, Dr. Funk included, and all our administration, principals, teachers, and students. And I do believe that we will get the job done anyway, that any hand that we're dealt. As far as compromise, I think that's something to look at, but I do not want the community to sit down and start thinking, here we go again. And so I hope that they understand if we get something done that way, that that's a lot of planning time, that's a lot of flex planning time, and that's a lot of things that we would be going both ways. Like I mentioned the other day, do we just start it on the 1st and split her down the middle? Well, no, I didn't want to see another calendar come out because I don't think that's I don't think, some people think that's transparency. It's not. It's called working the best that we can with the students and everything else. I do appreciate, again, the information I've gotten from the teachers. Again, being one that no one knows exactly, or they didn't know exactly where I was at before. I did get both sides, but I really do have a lot of confidence in what we've done in the past. Our scores, I guess we can reiterate that, but like Dr. Funk says, that could change next year again too, depending upon the demographics and the kids. So, I guess that's all.
Other comments? Well, the motion on the table right now is to approve this post-Labor Day start. It's been first and second, and so unless there's no other discussion, let's go around the table again. Linda?
No.
Bill?
No.
Dave?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
I'll vote no. Okay, so that motion doesn't have a majority. All right. So I need a motion to approve the pre-Labor Day calendar. Is there a first?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion?
I just wanted to, on your suggestion that if we potentially look at a compromise, I just wanted to state that I would certainly be open to looking at that concept for next year. So I just wanted to put that out.
No, and again, to do that, we have to do that tonight, so, so I think we have a couple options. We need to vote on this, what we just approved and seconded. Out of deference to some of our staff members who are staying for other presentations, we could, we'd have to change the agenda, but we could get those things done and then come back to the calendar, if that's, so, and I just want to make sure we do this correctly. So we already have a first and a second, so I'm going to do a roll call again. Again, I don't want to confuse anybody. We're approving, or the vote now is to approve the pre-Labor Day calendar. Linda?
Yes.
You only get to vote once, Linda. Bill?
Yes.
Dave?
No.
Jill?
No.
Julie?
No.
And I'd vote yes. So that motion does not have a majority as well. So I would entertain a motion at this point to remand item 9.1 to the end of the nines and make it 9.7.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. 9.2, approval of bid results for Hawthorne exterior wall restoration. Lori Vols. Lori, is your mic on? Can you?
Forgot. Okay, for your consideration would be the approval of the best bid. And my attachment just timed out. If, oh, and Ashley's not here either. If I can get mine open again here. Let's see, let's try that again. Okay, we have a letter of recommendation that summarizes the best bid from our engineer inspect. And the best bid is from Masonry Restoration, was the low bidder. And what we're recommending is the base bid, and then subtracting the deduct alternate number 1, so that the total bid value would be $253,600. And just to explain how this project is budgeted for, as you may recall, this is the second time we've bid. We did reconfigure some things and had an earlier start, so work will start in June, which means about $40,000 of the project will be expended and paid for in this fiscal year, which the budget amendment that I'll be bringing to you includes that piece. And then the remaining of the project is an expense in the operating capital budget for next year. So that was the resolution to getting the project done, and we had already had to put this, we had delayed this project a couple years because of the HVAC project, so we really need to get it done. So I do recommend that the board approve it.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second by Julie. Discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign? All right. Thank you, Lori. Approval of the 2014-15 amended budget.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Funk, for your consideration would be approval of the amended budget. And Jim, are you able to? That one was already. Yep, they've approved that one. Okay, Jim, if you can scroll on the document to the page, it's page 5. It has numbers on it, a lot of numbers. Okay, yep, there we go. I just want to hit the highlights of a few things. This is our amended budget, and we're getting a lot accomplished in this fiscal year. You may recall through the audit report that we do have some funds assigned for certain things. We have dollars assigned for such things as the capital piece of the HVAC radiation that was the project being expended this fiscal year. So that piece is in there. You'll see that it's about 6 items down, assigned capital for HVAC. We started the fund balance at the beginning of the year at $460,000, and the expenditure column, you'll see $460,000, we're spending that down. So we have some unique one-time expenditures in the general fund that have to do with operating capital types expenses. That is one example. So if you look on the 4th column, which is budgeted gain or loss, you'll see a number of numbers throughout that general fund summary that have brackets. That means a negative. It means like you're spending down, have more expenses than revenue. And in those cases, what we're doing is not only spending the current year allotment, but some carryover funds that we had that were in fund balance. So it does break it down into all those different restricted, like restricted for staff development is one example. Restricted for operating capital, we are spending some expenses this year that we had in fund balance. We kind of delayed. It was just a timing issue on some projects. So you'll see that the most important or key piece of the general fund that I always like to emphasize is the unassigned general fund, and that's where our general operations are. So that's where bulk of our staff is charged, and that's where the bulk of our general revenues are as well in the general fund. And you'll see that we are running very close to break even there. Revenue is equally in expense. Just a slight deficit expending there of about $150,000. But what I do want to point out about that $150,000 is that that is due to one-time capital type expenses. And in fact, there are a variety of them. The approval on that the tuck pointing piece you just approved, of that 150, about 40,000 is that. And we also had to do a repair to the food elevator at Hawthorne. It is actually dysfunctional. It can't even function right now. We need to get that replaced. That's another example. That was another about 40,000. So there were a number of kind of unique one-time capital expenses that come up to that figure of the 150,000. So, just keep that in mind. So in our regular operations, truly we are at a break even. So the budget there, the total net loss, if you want to say, on the general fund of the 1.1, that negative spend down is unique one-time capital types expenses. But you can see that in all the detail in the various reserves that is laid out there. So we're anticipating our fund balance will end up being about 5.7 million in the general fund as a whole, but the unassigned general fund balance being very similar to what it started out at, as of our last audit at 5.4 million. And so it is good news. We are in a very good, solid financial state in our general fund. And the other funds are basically updates there. Similar situation, Community Ed was spending down some of their fund balance, just implementing more programming. And Building Construction Fund, which is on the next page, is reflecting that we are implementing that last HVAC project at Lakeview this fiscal year. And the bulk of that project will be expended by June 30th, as our target there for completion was end of July. End of July this coming summer. So I just want to hit the highlights. There's a lot of numbers for Dave Klotz's reference. If you were to look at the graphs on the following pages, that summarizes our data. You can look at the actual by category on the right side compared to the amended budget on the far left, and then our original budget in the middle there. By taking a look at those graphs and the revenues as well as expense will give you a flavor for what typically occurs in those operations of the general fund and those other funds too that are listed in the graph format. Any questions?
We'd heard earlier that if there's a 1% increase in the state budget, does that affect just the $34 million line, or it's?
Right. Yes, what Dr. Funk was mentioning about what's maybe anticipated for funding changes for, it would be the general fund, that would be impacting that state aid line of the $34.2 million. And initially, the governor had proposed a 1%. That would not cut it for us. That would only equate to an increase of general ed funding of about $250,000. And our inflationary costs are more than $250,000 a year. So I remain very hopeful that we will have at least a 2.5 increase of funding for next year in the general ed formula. There's another bill that's being proposed, has to do with the Comp Ed pilot grant. You may recall that Albert Lee is very fortunate to receive a substantial compensatory ed pilot grant. And the proposal, one of the proposals is that it would maintain our level of funding in that particular grant, if you want to call it that, ongoing, so that it's not subject to being reduced or eliminated with each biennium. So we're hopeful that will also stay in place. Now that I have this budget updated, what I'm working on this week is actually the financial forecast for next year. I've put together enrollment projection, and it shows just a slight increase of enrollment. So I'll be putting together some various scenarios given potential funding increase from the legislature, as well as some expenditure side estimates of what might happen with our inflationary factors. And so we'll be studying that closely as we'll be starting into our staffing plan analysis shortly yet here in March.
Other questions or comments? If not, we need a motion to approve that.
I'll move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Opposed, same sign. All right, thanks, Lori. Jim, item 9.4, directing administration to make recommendations for reduction in programs and positions. This is a procedural item that we do every year. Jim Querum?
That's correct. One of the statutory requirements we have is to have a resolution to move forward. This kicks off the staffing process for the 15-16 school year for us to look at programs and any potential reductions that might come because of that.
So this is not a motion to reduce a particular program, but to start the process to evaluate programs or positions.
That's correct. You're directing us to look at that.
Other questions?
What are the procedures as far as identifying reductions in positions?
A lot of that has to do with budget and where certain pots of money, if we get the same levels as we have before, and then we look by building, depending upon how many students they have at the high school, what classes are they in, how does the schedule shake out, and then of course in the elementary we look at caps in each classroom as far as the number of students, depending upon grade level. So there's a lot of factors that go into play. It usually starts with the elementary class sections and eventually ends up with the high school once registration is done. And we work with principals on that.
Other questions? So I need a motion to approve that item.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Jim, do you have a abbreviated human resources staffing update?
The actual topic that I was going to look at, you heard about, you've probably heard a lot about the lack of subs, the state of Minnesota, along with teacher license areas where there's shortages. And I was going to give you a snapshot of what that looks like for us as far as the number of absences and the number of subs we have. And I could probably abbreviate it by showing you one slide. If you give me just a minute, I'll do my secretary piece and pull it up. But basically what I wanted to look at is what is our trajectory for teacher absences? What has it been historically? What are we moving towards? And what are our number of subs? And there's some other factors in there that I think that are very important, and I'll try to talk to those and spare you all the rest of my slides, but give you an idea of what we're trying to get at here. So. Yeah, could you? Okay, so obviously, one of the biggest things, particularly for teachers and of course for paras, because they're the ones that work directly with students, is what amount of time are they not in front of kids, right? So that's one of the issues that we wanted to look at. What is the extent of that issue? How often do we require that they be gone, and how often do they choose to be gone? Because that's two very different things. The other is the lack of regular subs to fill vacancies. I'm going to share some numbers with you, and I think we have to take in consideration why our fill rate is really good, and it's pretty much because our teachers step up and fill in for each other when they're gone, so our fill rate's pretty good. But I think there's some potential here down the road where we're going to run into some problems. So it's not unique to us. Next slide, Lori. So what I did is I broke it up into two groups of data: district-directed absences and teacher choice absences. I didn't know how else to label those, but we tell them they got to be gone out of their classroom sometimes, and sometimes they choose to be gone, right? So here's some examples of that district-directed data. Here would be teacher's choice, bereavement, FMLA, child illness, PTO, that sort of thing, okay? So here's some factors to consider. Our fill rate is actually pretty good, and compared to talking with other HR directors, it's actually very good. From September to February, our fill rate is 95 to 99% for our teacher absences. Falls off in the spring, probably a little sub fatigue over time, and more PTO is used later in the spring. It went somewhere.
Yes, I've talked to our tech guy about getting that.
Okay, I'll keep going. There's a couple other factors I think. A couple other things I think you need to take into consideration as we look at this. There's been a revised disability leave. For anybody that works in HR, they know there's an expansion in Minnesota of who you can take disability leave for. The intent of that was really for the private sector, not probably so much for public sector that have bargaining units and a fair amount of disability as a benefit. But it does affect us, so they can take disability for almost any first or second relation family member. Also, I think we've had an increase of FMLA. We've had some substantial illnesses and a lot of pregnancies over the last year or so. So that does take into account. And we're doing a better job of reporting within the absence system. We're refining within ASAP, which is our sub and absence system, we're refining more categories. So maybe before, a couple hours wasn't reported. Well, now it is reported. Okay, so as we look at this data, I want you to kind of keep those things in mind because I think they are important. Next slide. So I looked at September to March until the end of February, actually, over the last 3 years. And, you know, we had more absences in 12-13 than we did 13-14, and this year has been pretty harsh so far as absences for a variety of reasons. Maybe the flu had a lot to do with that, but it is trending up over the last 3 years. This graph would show you by month then, green on top being this year so far, and you can see we have a general trend where usually in November we get that spike. We got that earlier this year. It leveled off, but now it's heading back up again. So it gives you, from September to February, that 3-year total. That it's kind of interesting, that trend line, and you see the same pattern. And then this is the district-directed versus teacher choice. And this is where I was saying I could show you this slide, and I think you can see if this trend was to continue. And again, there's a lot of factors in place here that I talked about earlier. Better reporting, various things. But if you had these two trend line continue and you kept the amount of subs that we have in our pool level, I think we could be in for some issues going down the line here. And so when we look at things like staff development, some of those things, we've made some changes as to when we do it and make sure that it really does need to be done on a sub-out day. And we can continue to look at those things. But I think that this kind of tells the story a little bit. We're slightly trending down on those things that the number of times we require them out of the building, that isn't substantially lower. But the trend line for absences appears to be going up. And that may be a one-year blip with this year. It might go like our graduation rates, but right now it's trending up. So I just pulled the top 10. I tallied the last 3 years, September to March, and these were the top 10 reasons for absences. There's a pretty good break in far as number, right around 5 and 6. FMLA and staff development are pretty close as far as the number of total absences, and it drops off rather quickly after that as far as the number of absences. So the big ones are the top 6 there. So what steps have we taken? We've made a conscious effort to limit staff development on Mondays and Fridays. As you would expect, people would like to take a personal day on a Friday in conjunction with the weekend. It makes total sense. It's probably not the time to have staff development. So we get a large number of absences for that on Friday. We've also talked with the bargaining unit. One of the things that we want the bargaining unit to know, or actually the leadership of the bargaining unit wants their folks to know, is that there is no short-term disability in our district. So if you want to be able to use disability leave until you get to long-term disability, if you had a significant medical issue, you would use your disability days. Well, you would need about 80 days, real days, to get to, I think, that 120 mark for long-term disability. And at 12 days a year, you're going to have to build up a bank to get to that point. So the bargaining unit has been working on that. We've had some discussions on that as well, just to educate people on that process. And then I think the Well at Work clinic can make a difference if somebody can come over here during their prep, or just take 2 hours instead of the whole day, because the only time they could get an appointment was in 1 o'clock. I think that could make a difference as well. So we'll see what kind of significance that has as we move through this year and next year as far as absences are concerned. And there's a lot of ideas out there. Districts, we get emails regularly every week. What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? They're talking about increasing pay for subs, compensating teachers that have retired from the district at a higher rate, just because most of them are local and they might do another day or two kind of thing. There's one district that is actually hiring full-time subs, 1 for every building and 2 for the secondary. Very expensive option, but they're looking at that. So
They're paying them $180 a day, and they're spending $500,000, because it's St. Cloud, pretty big district. So they're spending $500,000 a day, or $500,000 a year extra on just having permanent subs in their buildings.
We pay a day for subs again?
110, right? Which is in the area, 100 to 110, 115 is pretty common. Maybe Rochester's 120, but nobody else, I don't believe, is over 110. So that would be one option, like I said. Or one of the other ones that some districts are starting to talk with their bargaining units about is some kind of incentive to not be gone. I know Alexandria is doing that, where they're working on coming up with what's an acceptable number per year, and then they work backwards from that. So anyway, I just wanted we wanted to share that with you. I think it's one of those things that everybody's struggling with, that I talk to, both on finding qualified subs, and then how to fill those absences when they do come up, to minimize the interference for kids in the classroom. That's it.
Questions?
What happens for the percentage that don't get filled, the classrooms?
I think they get creative many times. They may split a class and put 12 kids in that class and 13 in that one. Occasionally, you might have an administrator step in. Probably happened more in the past than now. have a specialist take a class on their prep. I mean, I think they just get really creative on how to do that.
How many qualified subs do you have, and what constitutes a qualified sub?
Well, when I say qualified subs, I would say subs, anybody can sub if they have a short call sub license. So they have a 4-year degree, they get a license from MDE, they can do that. So we can use them in any classroom at any level, and that would be a qualified sub. There's times that we might get a 30 or 35-day absence or 45-day absence. Then you're looking for somebody that has a license in that area that that person teaches. Then they become a long-term replacement. They go on the salary schedule just like any other teacher. That's another big issue that we have, is finding people with that license. I would say, I would have to talk with Heidi, but we probably have a pool of about 30 that regularly sub and that we count on all the time and hope they don't go south for winter or whatever, or get burned out. I think that's part of it too. So that's a license just in Minnesota, short call sub license. They can do up to 15 days consecutively and for one person.
Other questions? It's good information. Okay, thanks, Jim. 9.6, policies for review. I believe this is the second reading.
It's a second reading, and you can approve them tonight, because they are already policies we have on the books, just have been modified due to current law.
Identical to what we had last time?
Correct. You have a policy that says if they're only changed because of statutory changes, you can do that, approve that in one reading.
Any questions about those policies? We heard them last 2 weeks ago. So I'll take a motion to approve those policies.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Pose same sign. Okay, 9.7, school calendar. And again, for us to have a discussion, we have to have a motion. Let me think about this for a second.
I would like to present two proposed calendars before you have any discussion. For 15, 16, and 16, 17, you haven't seen either one of them yet. So I'd like to show them to you, let you digest them a little bit, and then see if maybe one of you wants to make a motion to approve 2 years, if that works for you.
It does. I just want it to be technically parliamentarily correct. So I would take a motion for a discussion item 9.7, a review of 2 new calendars.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Or any discussion? Sorry, discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay.
Okay, go ahead and pop up the 15, 16 version that I had you prepare. I've got a little mark in the bottom here so you know we're not, if there's too many calendars, there's a little check mark in the bottom corner of your calendar to make sure that we're looking at. Nobody has seen this calendar before with the exception of Ashley and myself. I had her prepare this one a few days ago. Just in case we had some sort of situation like we have tonight. All right, what you have in front of you is a very traditional calendar. It's 175 days. Currently, which is different than the 2 you looked at previously. So there's no snow makeup days in here for starters, okay? The difference about this calendar is it starts August 31st. Okay, so it starts pre-Labor Day, has the Friday off before Labor Day, and it's Labor Day 4-day weekend. Other than that, it's as traditional as it comes. The only difference is, go ahead and keep on scrolling, Ashley. You'll see that Good Friday's off in March for next year. Spring break is still that, I think, the week of the 7th there. And this calendar, by starting on August 31st, there are no snow day makeups in it. It's a 175-day calendar, and school is done on the 2nd, kids graduate the 3rd, and parents don't have to worry about having their kids come back. Teachers don't have to worry about having anybody come back that 2nd week in June. Because it's done.
I have a question.
Yep.
So does this get first semester done before?
No, it does not.
This does not?
It does not.
Okay, sorry if I missed that.
Nope,
if you
I didn't
said
say that. So it's traditional in the fact that it does not, what it does is it starts school a week, basically a week early before Labor Day, and you're not running into later into June. And I didn't get to see all the comments that the teachers sent the board. I saw some of them, but one of the concerns from staff, and it's a very significant concern, is kids have checked out by the end of May. They just have. So by having a snow week at the end of the calendar, recovery week, whatever we're going to call it, it's are you kidding me? We're bringing kids back in June for an extra week. So this calendar addresses that issue. But it doesn't address Mark's plan of getting first semester done by Christmas.
I just have another question.
Yep.
Then related to that recovery week, is that only targeted for kids who need credit recovery?
No, that would be, we could run targeted services then, or kids who are failing, from like the end of the semester. It gives them an opportunity to come back and try to get caught up before they leave for the summer.
Okay, so it would hit all of those things?
Yep, that's the intent.
Then is there a, we really shouldn't discuss unless they're on motion. Is there a 16-17 one then too?
Yeah, there is, but I wanted to just get your thoughts on this one first. There are school districts all over the metro who are adopting this calendar, starting either September 1st or August 31st for next year.
Is that more trimester schools, or is that Unium?
It's regular semesters.
On the targeted services week or the targeted recovery week, that's for all grades or only certain grades?
I believe it'd be for all grades. It would be.
And where is that week? I'm missing that.
It's not in this one, but
it's
we
not
could
in
still run it. It's just we don't have, we were calling targeted recovery and it is a snow day makeup, basically, targeted/snow day makeup that week previously.
So that's not on this one?
Nope.
Okay.
School is done for all intents and purposes on June 2nd on this one, and we can add a targeted week in June for kids, but there would be no snow day recovery that week. Because this calendar is 175 days, just as we currently do for high school students. 107, and we would adjust it to have 173 for elementary with some 2-day conferences in there, 2 one-day conferences. Other questions on it? I will tell you, the calendar I created based upon feedback from the board for the June 2nd or June 3rd, the post-Labor Day calendar you were considering earlier, that's an artificial end date in June. I've been here for a while now, and invariably we have snow days. And so we would be making up snow days in June on that post-Labor Day. Yes, there's a blizzard warning for tomorrow. So I've been told.
So I guess I'm ready to see the 16-17.
And another check mark on this calendar, not to get you, what's the only 16, 17 on this? All right, this calendar goes along the lines of the calendar, the pre-Labor Day calendar that we were considering. This one, it goes along the same lines as the pre-Labor Day calendar that we were considering earlier tonight. And just a couple thoughts on it. It would start, school would start the 24th is what we're looking at of August. So you got probably a week, 6-7 days before the before Labor Day, and then pretty traditional MEA break, Thanksgiving Day break. You see the Christmas with the weekend in there. We have the 3 staff development days at the end of semester 1. Semester 1 would be finished the 23rd. President's Day. You see where spring break is. Good Friday's on the 14th. School would be done the 19th on this calendar. Our graduation would be the 19th, and then we go back to the snow and recovery. So this is very similar to the pre-Labor Day calendar that you considered, only we rolled it forward a year. Now, a couple caveats on this one. One, we don't know if we will have legislative approval to do this yet. You can approve this tonight, and then if the legislature acts in a different way, then we'll have to come back in the fall or later this summer and relook at approving it. Okay? So I want to be clear that you can do what you want tonight as a board. We may have to modify it depending on what comes out of the legislature. So what I would suggest to you tonight is you approve 15-16 in whatever format you want, and then I would also ask you to consider in the same motion to approve 16-17 once I can answer your questions on 16-17. How many days did you say that? This one is 171, okay, but it's got snow days made up, built into it.
And what's the semester breakout of days?
I think it's 82 and 89. And again, with about 5 days of testing second semester, we're comfortable with that from a teaching and learning angle. And thank Ashley for her fast fingers on throwing this one together for you.
Does anybody want to recess so you have time to talk with each other or look at it? I mean, at some point it becomes overwhelming. One question I have about and I'm going to call it the new 15-16, without ending the first semester before Christmas, I have a hard time supporting the early start.
With that one, we would. That one, the 16-17?
No, the 15-16.
Okay, 15-16. Okay, got it.
So I guess that's just one thought. Do other people have? I mean, where are you on these or?
I have the same thought for the 15-16. It doesn't seem to warrant the early start if we're not achieving that semester break.
Then what about the 16-17? Or do you over here? And again, it's just unfortunate that you are on this side and we're on this side. So I don't mean to refer to you as you over there. But you over there, do you have any comments? So again, I think we're at a point of compromise, which means that not everybody gets what they want. And I appreciate that there are 6 people up here who are completely passionate about this, and each one of us thinks that we're absolutely right. And that's not a bad thing. It isn't. And everybody that's remained sitting out there also is passionate for their own reason, and that's a great thing too. I mean, nothing's worse than we have school board meetings and there's no one over there. That's terrible. So I appreciate that everybody has a passion for it, but we're not leaving the building till we have a calendar. So to me, a compromise is to approve the, and again, we're still in the discussion phase, to approve the post-Labor Day calendar that we had tonight for this year, and then look at the 16-17 that we have in front of us. That is something that I could vote yes on. And again, it's not exactly what me as a person likes, but I would be your biggest supporter of both calendars. So I think why we still are on this topic of discussion, anybody have, Julie, you're?
Yep, I also think that that would be a good compromise, and I would support that as well.
Okay. Jill, Dave, you over there?
Yeah, as I said earlier, that's a compromise definitely to look at. It might, as you said, not everyone gets everything they want and what they do. You know, if it's a right or the best, I think it would probably be the best vote for me to support that.
Jill, you have comments?
I do feel it is a good compromise. I'm still trying to figure out why there are, since Labor Day is 2 days earlier, why are there still 7 days ahead of it instead of 8? I was thinking there would be one less for some reason, but it's just not working out that way on the calendar. So I think that even though it would be 7 days ahead of Labor Day, there would be, and assuming legislature lets us go through with it, it would seem that there would be ample time to plan and see if it works.
Thank you. You over here? Comments? Hearing none. Jill, Linda? Comments?
So, okay, so we're looking at the post, for the first post. I'm saying Mark's post, that's what I'm calling it. And then the pre, 2016, 17, 171 days, right? The one that Mike just showed. That's what we're looking at?
That's correct. All right, I'm ready to move on to item 9.7 now, which is a motion, approval of a school calendar for 2015-16 and 2016-17. So I would need a motion to approve post-Labor Day calendar.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, please
quickly?
do.
I'm just noticing the purple day. So
On which calendar?
16, 17, the purple day is the 23rd and says school begins 23rd. It's coded differently than the pre-Labor Day that we were first looking at. The purple day was the 24th. School begins on the 25th. So when would school begin on the 24th? Or
Yes,
the
24th. It says school begins on the 24th.
School begins on the 24th?
Yep.
Okay, so that should be 24th. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
And boy, I mean, I hate to do this because we're close, but because we are close and it's important, does it matter to anyone, Mike, is spring break because of the end of the quarter in the 16-17 one? That's what I'm
Yes.
seeing, okay. But Good Friday's not till April 14th.
Correct.
Wow. Okay. All right, so I'd be looking for a motion to approve post-Labor Day 2015-16 start and a 2016-17 August 24th start, which I will now call pre-Labor Day. Could I have a motion to approve that?
Motion.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Jill. Any discussion?
Okay, I'm getting tired, but remind me, does the post, the one that we have for the post one for 15, 16, does that doesn't end, first semester, does that end before Christmas break or no?
It does not.
No, okay, that's my question, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote again. And I just want to make clear, everyone understands what the motion is?
Let me clarify that. Okay, so you are looking at starting school on September 8th in 2015, and you are looking at graduating on June 3rd. That's the post-Labor Day approval you're looking at, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you are looking at for 2016-17, starting school on August 24th with a graduation date of May 19th.
That is correct.
Okay.
I mean, that's my understanding. Is that everyone's understanding? Okay. Okay, we'll do a roll call. Linda?
Yes.
Bill?
No.
Dave?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. So that motion passes 5-1. I'm going to clap. I need item 10, closed session pursuant to Minnesota State Statute, Section 13D.03. We'll move into closed section for the purpose of labor negotiations. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll move approval.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Second. Discussion, all in favor, aye? Anyone opposed? All right, we're in closed session, thanks.